Something just happened in one of the most critical waterways on the planet, and the United States Navy is not talking about it the way they normally would. Somewhere in the narrow blue corridor between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, a threat has emerged that has not been seen at this scale since the tanker wars of the 1980s. Warships are repositioning. Helicopters are flying lower than usual, and sailors who specialize in one of the most terrifying disciplines in naval warfare have been placed on a level of readiness that makes veterans of this region go quiet when you ask them what it means. Mine alert. Not a drill, not a precaution. A full operational posture shift across U.S. Naval Forces Central Command. And if you understand what mines can do in a waterway like the Strait of Hormuz, you understand exactly why every government on the planet is watching this situation and hoping the rest of the world is not paying close enough attention to panic. But you should be paying attention, because what is unfolding right now in those waters touches every economy, every fuel pump, every cargo ship, and every military calculation in the world. Let us start with the geography, because the Strait of Hormuz is not just a body of water. It is a choke point, the single most strategically vital maritime corridor on Earth. At its narrowest point, the strait stretches roughly 21 miles across. That sounds wide until you realize that the actual navigable shipping lanes, the lanes deep enough for supertankers and military vessels, are only about 2 miles wide in each direction. 2 miles. Through that impossibly thin corridor flows approximately 20% of all the oil traded globally, every single day. Tankers the size of city blocks moving in slow, steady processions, carrying crude from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE, and Iran itself toward the refineries of Asia, Europe, and beyond. If that corridor closes, even temporarily, the global energy market does not slow down. It seizes. Oil prices spike within hours. Supply chains that depend on predictable energy costs begin breaking down within days, and the political consequences ripple outward for months. This is why whoever controls the threat environment in the Strait of Hormuz controls something more powerful than any single army or any single nuclear arsenal. They control the global economy's heartbeat. And right now, that heartbeat has a problem. The U.S. Navy has been operating in the Persian Gulf region continuously for decades. This is not new. What is new is the specific nature of the current threat assessment that has triggered this mine alert posture. Naval mines are among the oldest weapons in maritime warfare. They are also among the most effective, pound for pound, of any weapon ever designed. A single contact mine, the kind that detonates when a ship physically strikes it, can tear open the hull of a vessel carrying hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil. A pressure mine, triggered by the displacement wave of a passing ship, can detonate without any physical contact at all. And the most sophisticated modern variants, influence mines, respond to combinations of magnetic signature, acoustic signature, and water pressure. They are designed to ignore small vessels and wait for exactly the right target. A supertanker, a warship, a vessel whose loss would send a message that cannot be ignored. However, this is where things take a serious turn. Because Iran has spent 30 years studying exactly how to use naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz, their naval doctrine treats the strait not as a corridor to be defended, but as a trap to be sprung. And the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Navy, a separate and often more aggressive force than Iran's conventional Navy, has developed mine-laying capabilities that U.S. military planners have described in internal assessments as a serious asymmetric threat. The math is brutally simple. Deploying mines costs a fraction of what it costs to clear them. A minefield that takes days to lay can take months to fully neutralize. And in those months, every ship captain, every insurance company, every oil company making routing decisions looks at those waters and makes the same choice: go around. What most people do not realize is that this is not the first time this scenario has activated American naval emergency responses in this region. In the late 1980s, during the Iran-Iraq War, Iranian forces mined Gulf waters in what became known as Operation Praying Mantis for the American response. An American frigate, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, struck a mine that blew a massive hole in its hull and nearly sank the ship. 10 sailors were badly wounded. The vessel survived only because of extraordinary damage control efforts by its crew. That single mine, one weapon, almost killed dozens of American sailors and triggered the largest American naval battle since World War II. That was one mine. Current intelligence assessments are not talking about one mine. And the technology available today, both for deploying mines and for disguising that deployment, is decades more advanced than anything that existed in 1988. So what specifically triggered the current alert? The details that have been confirmed through official channels are deliberately incomplete, which is itself a signal of how seriously this situation is being managed. But what has emerged through naval monitoring networks, maritime shipping intelligence, and regional security briefings paints a picture that explains why U.S. Fifth Fleet assets have shifted into a higher readiness posture. Unusual vessel movements were detected in the strait. Specifically, small boats operating at night in patterns inconsistent with fishing or routine commercial activity. These movements occurred near the deepwater shipping lanes. The vessels involved appeared on thermal imaging to be carrying heavy cargo and operating without standard navigation lights. Additionally, sonar contacts consistent with objects on or near the seafloor were logged in areas where no infrastructure or natural formations should be present. None of this is conclusive on its own. But the pattern, the combination of signals read against the current political backdrop, triggered the alert. And the political backdrop is everything. Iran and the United States are not at war. But they are operating in a space that military analysts describe as below the threshold of open conflict and above the threshold of genuine peace. It is the most dangerous space in international relations, because in that gray zone, miscalculations happen. Accidents get interpreted as provocations. Provocations get interpreted as acts of war. And a single incident in a body of water, this strategically vital, can cascade in ways that no one can fully predict or control. The failure of Russian tactics and the human cost of meat assaults. One of the most striking and frankly disturbing elements of this conflict has been Russia's repeated use of what battlefield observers and Ukrainian soldiers have termed meat assaults, mass infantry attacks with little to no armored support, conducted in waves, with the apparent expectation that sheer numbers will overwhelm Ukrainian defensive positions. These tactics have resulted in catastrophic Russian losses. In sectors like Avdiivka, Bakhmut, Vuhledar, and more recently, Pokrovsk and Kurakhov, Russian infantry units have been sent forward in groups, often without adequate reconnaissance, fire support, or coordination, directly into prepared Ukrainian defensive lines equipped with drones, mines, and interlocking fields of fire. Military analysts have pointed to several reasons why Russia continues to employ these tactics despite their staggering human cost. First, Russia has a manpower model that prioritizes replacement over quality. Mobilized men are given minimal training and sent to the front as quickly as possible. This results in poorly trained soldiers making predictable tactical decisions that Ukrainian defenders can exploit. Second, Russian military culture at the command level has historically rewarded the capture of territorial objectives regardless of cost, meaning commanders continue to order frontal assaults even when those assaults are visibly failing. The result is that Russia is burning through its mobilized manpower at an extraordinary rate. According to multiple Western intelligence assessments, Russia is recruiting approximately 25,000 to 30,000 new soldiers per month just to maintain its current force levels, a figure that itself speaks to the scale of attrition it is absorbing. Mines, the silent equalizer. One of the least discussed but most consequential elements of this conflict is the extensive use of landmines and anti-vehicle mines across the Ukrainian theater of war. Ukraine has laid one of the most extensive minefields in modern military history along its defensive lines, and these mines have had a devastating effect on Russian armored and mechanized assaults. During Russia's large-scale armor offensives in the early phases of the war, and again during attempted breakthroughs in subsequent periods, armored columns ran directly into minefields that immobilized lead vehicles, caused follow-on vehicles to bunch up, and made the entire formation a target for Ukrainian artillery and drones. The combination of mines, drones, and artillery has made Russian armored assault practically suicidal in well-defended sectors. The use of anti-personnel mines has also significantly complicated Russian infantry movements, particularly at night, and has contributed to a substantial portion of the overall casualty figures. This is a deeply uncomfortable dimension of the conflict, because mines continue to kill and maim long after the fighting moves elsewhere. But as a military instrument in the hands of a defending force, they have proven extraordinarily effective. Electronic warfare, the invisible battle. Alongside the physical battlefield, there is an electronic battlefield that is equally fierce and equally consequential. Electronic warfare, the use of systems that jam, spoof, intercept, or disrupt enemy communications and sensor systems, has been a defining feature of this conflict. Both sides have invested heavily in electronic warfare capabilities, but Ukraine has received significant Western assistance in this domain. GPS jamming, drone signal disruption, and communication intercepts have all played important roles. Ukraine's ability to intercept Russian military communications has provided tactical intelligence that has directly contributed to targeting decisions, allowing Ukrainian forces to strike Russian command gatherings, logistics meetings, and troop concentrations with remarkable precision. Russia has also used electronic warfare to disrupt Ukrainian drones, and there is a constant back-and-forth technological adaptation between the two sides. Ukraine has responded to Russian jamming by developing fiber-optic guided drones that cannot be jammed at all. The guidance signal runs through a physical wire, making electronic countermeasures irrelevant. This innovation has already begun appearing on the battlefield and represents the next evolution in drone warfare. The strategic picture, attrition, is working. Stepping back from the tactical details, it is important to understand the broader strategic context. Ukraine's stated and actual military strategy has evolved significantly over the course of the conflict. After initial defensive success and the liberation of significant territory in 2022, Ukraine found that large-scale offensive operations against prepared Russian positions were extremely costly and difficult. The strategy that has emerged, partly by design and partly by necessity, is a grinding war of attrition focused on destroying Russian combat power faster than it can be regenerated. Every soldier killed, every tank destroyed, every ammunition depot blown up, and every command post eliminated degrades Russia's ability to sustain offensive operations and ultimately to hold the territory it has seized. Western military analysts, including those at the Royal United Services Institute and the Institute for the Study of War, have noted that Russia's military-industrial capacity, while significant, is under enormous strain. Sanctions have limited Russia's access to critical semiconductors and precision manufacturing components. Tank production, while accelerated, relies heavily on refurbishing older Soviet-era stocks. Artillery barrel burnout rates are extremely high, and replacement is becoming a visible constraint on Russian fire missions. The combination of battlefield attrition and economic industrial pressure is designed to reach a breaking point, a moment when Russia's ability to sustain its current level of military operations collapses faster than political decisions can reverse it. So, what is obliterating Russian troops at a record pace in Ukraine? It is not one single weapon or one single tactic. It is a convergence. FPV drones deployed in industrial quantities, precision Western artillery systems, HIMARS and cruise missiles disrupting logistics, extensive minefields neutralizing armored assault, electronic warfare providing intelligence advantages, and the catastrophic human cost of mass infantry tactics against prepared defenses. The battlefield of Ukraine in 2024 and 2025 has become one of the most lethal environments for conventional military forces ever recorded in modern warfare. The lessons being learned here about drone warfare, about electronic warfare, about the limits of mass manpower without quality training are already reshaping military doctrine in capitals around the world. What happens next depends on political will, industrial capacity, and the decisions made in Washington, Brussels, Moscow, and Kyiv. But on the battlefield itself, the data tells a clear and sobering story. The cost of this war for Russia is historic, and it is rising. If you found this video informative and valuable, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who want to understand what is actually happening in the world. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. We cover these developments consistently and in depth, and there is a lot more coming. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and we will see you in the next one.